Alright, you're welcome to Isaac Johnson School of Shoemaking. I am Isaac Johnson. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about skiving, right? So, what is skiving? Skiving means removing some portion from leather, that is, trying to reduce the thickness of some parts of the leather we are going to be working it, or you are going to be working it, right? We all know leather already. This is like a pieces of leather. So skiving literally means reducing some portion of this leather, not along the length, I mean the thickness of the leather, right? So why do we skive? The reason why we skive is just as to maintain a continuous flow of thickness along whatever project we are working with, be it a shoe, a belt, any leather work you are working with at all, just to maintain a continuous flow of thickness. That is, if we are going to lay a portion of this leather on another leather, of course, in shoemaking or any other leather craft, what we do predominantly is cutting pieces of leather and attaching them at one point or the other. So if we are to cut a piece of this leather and attach it on maybe another leather or this type of leather, you will agree with me that the thickness at the point of attachment is going to double. This is a 4 mm thick leather. It's quite thick, if you can see it. So if I cut a piece of this leather, let's say at this point right here, and I want to join it back to this leather right here, you will agree with me that this thickness at this point is now double the individual thickness, right? So this is 4 mm and this is 4 mm. By the time I join them here, this position now, this point of attachment will now be 8 mm, right? So that is exactly what we want to avoid. We want to avoid running across the length of our leather and we have like a gallop or some parts bulging, right? So that is exactly why we skive. Now the other reason why we skive is there are some portions of leather work where you need to fold, that will require you to fold, right? Maybe at the top line of your shoe, it will require you to fold, or anywhere, or maybe you are making a belt and you need to fold the point where you need to put the buckle of the belt. So to avoid that part being overly thick, we tend to skive some portion of the leather. So skiving some portion of the leather will literally make it easy to skive. So that is the two reasons why we skive. And where do we skive? Of course, we skive at the point of attachment. We skive at folding point whenever we need to fold and whenever we need to layer a leather to another leather. So how do we skive? Now that is like the main essence of this video, how to skive. Before we get to how to skive, we really need to understand that there are tools or machines that are very, very necessary for skiving. Number one is, and the most common of course, is the skiving machine. It is also referred to as the bell skiver, right? What the bell skiver does is it helps you in a very, very easy way to just remove the edge of your leather. It does it seamlessly, very easy, and the only thing is it uses light and it is very expensive. Of course, if you are just a startup, a bell skiver or a skiving machine, so to speak, is expensive. On this part, in this part of the country, it is close to 400,000 to 450. I mean, Nigerian naira, and I don't know what it might cost in other parts of the country, but here it costs about 400 to 500 to get a good one and a very easy to maintain one. Now, if you don't have a bell skiver or you can't afford a bell skiver for a beginner, it is absolutely very okay, because of course before the bell skiver came, we have been skiving. I mean, our ancestors have been skiving. I was not there. So what they use is knives. So that's why knife is very, and I mean, it's more like the most important tool in shoemaking. You can use it to cut, and for this case, knives will be used for skiving. So we have different types of knives that we can use. For this class, we have these two here. This is more like a Japanese design of knife. I think this is steel, and it's quite durable and easy to use also. This other one, I don't know what country this is from, but this is a made in China type of knife actually, but it's very easy. And the thing is, if you don't have these two types of knives, you can actually use any other types of knives that you can lay your hands on. There are other tools for skiving, such as a leather shovel. This literally works by shaving off the leather. You can see the position of the blade right here. It just shaves the leather. So this is also a good tool if you are looking on investing in skiving. This is not knife, it works with razor. So as soon as the razor gets blunt, you can easily replace. There are other ones. I think this is what the blade of the razor, I mean the blade of the leather shovel looks like. You can easily open up and change if you want something that's really easy, right? So let's quickly demonstrate what skiving looks like. This is a pattern of a shoe, an Oxford to be precise. It's a brogue. The part of the shoe or any part of the leather that we skive is usually the point of attachment, except the work demands otherwise. Now, if let's assume this is already a leather and this is a leather piece also, we need to lay it over at this point on this other one. So what we do is we are going to skive underneath here by way of removing it, right? Removing some part of leather here to make it thinner, and the under part of this part, so that by the time we lay it over, if we are using a 4mm leather or 3mm leather, let's use 4mm for example, this part will no longer be 8mm by way of 4/4, because we will have removed and thinned out some parts. So you want to have like a continuous flow. So this is 4mm. By the time you get to the point of attachment, it is expected that you have something really close to 4mm or so, so that by the time your work will not look like a bulging, you will not have bulging region all over. So let's quickly demonstrate how to skive. Now let's assume we are using, of course we are using the leather. Let's use a silver pen to mark on top of the leather as such. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll try as much as possible to make it visible. All right, so this is this line right here. We are going to be cutting off this line. Now before you cut off the line, make sure you I mean, whenever you want to skive, right, if you are cutting a piece of material and you want to skive it, make sure you are not cutting exactly on the line, right? You want to cut a little bit in front of the line so that by the time you are done skiving, you will be able to trace it again. Because one property of leather is the elasticity part. I mean, leather can stretch, and if you are going to be using knives to skive, there's a tendency that your leather will stretch in the process also, because you are actually exerting some force to remove the part of the leather, so your leather can stretch out. So that's the reason why you need to add some allowance to it. By the time you are done skiving, you just bring your pattern back and retrace, so that you'll be sure of having your leather material to be exact as your pattern. If not, you might lose the integrity of your pattern. So we are going to be cutting out with some allowance. You don't want to cut with too much allowance, but just something small enough or big enough for you to be able to retrace. So by the time I cut out this piece of leather, it is expected that it should be bigger than what's it called now, than the pattern, just a little bit, right, in such a way that I'll be able to retrace. So if you look at this leather, you can see the allowance I gave it. It's quite not very big, but it's obvious. You should be able to retrace with this amount of allowance, right? So the part of the leather we are going to be skiving is the back of the leather. Now this is the front part of the leather, which is the side where it's exposed. You want to show off. While the suede part of the leather is where you are going to be removing, you are going to be shaving off, right? So one thing is, you have to make sure your knife is sharp. Your knife is very sharp. Skiving is not hard, it's not difficult, it's not something that you cannot learn. Of course, it takes practice to do it well, but even though you want to practice, your knives have to be sharp, right? So let's quickly demonstrate on a piece of leather what it looks like to skive. Okay, let's use this side. Skiving just literally means removing. You can see how seamless it is, and if you are skiving well, your what's the part called now, the part you skived should not break off. It can break up actually, but make sure it is consistent, right? So that's exactly what we are going to be doing on this piece. So and you want to make sure that the part you are skiving is uniform. You don't want some parts to be thicker while some parts to be lighter. Of course, it is reasonable, not reasonable, it is possible to have some parts thicker and some parts lighter, because we are human and we are skiving with our hand. If it were to be a machine, everything would be uniform and smooth. But if you have a part that is thicker, like in this case, I have this part to be thicker than here, what you just do is to go back there and skive it a little bit more until it's uniform, right? Just skive it a little bit more until it's very uniform. Now, the way skiving works is it makes it a little bit slopey. That is, this part will slope down, then the other part that is coming from this part also will slope down, right? So if this part is sloped down and this part is sloped down, it means the lightest part of this one will rest here, while this part that is the lightest on this portion will rest inward. So it will create some level of balance on the leather and you have like a continuous flow, right? If this is not thin enough for you, you can thereby go further and try and shave until you have a perfect skive, right? And you can thin out your leather as flat as you want it. You can make it very, very flat if you so desire. Like in this case, it's really getting flat, and that's because the knife is really, really sharp. Now that brings us to sharpening the knife. So some person's problem is not actually the knives, because you can actually create your knife from anything. And I mean, you can buy a table knife, cut it and make it look just like this. I mean, like just anything straight like this. Then all you just need to is to sharpen it at both ends or one end, make it really flat, then you'll be able to use it. Anything at all that is a metal, you can use it to skive. But in order to have like a very high, smooth and very sharp leather, you need some tools to sharpen your leather. Like we have the likes of whetstone. Whetstone are like grinding stones that you can use to skive. We don't have whetstone here, but we have diamond stones. They always come in different grades. This is 1000 grades, and it means this is very smooth. This is 800 grades. This is a little bit smooth, while this is 600 grades. You can have as much as 2500 grades, right? The higher the grade, the smoother it becomes, and the smoother whatever it is you are using to sharpen your knife, the sharper the knife becomes, right? So you need sharpening stone or diamond stone to sharpen, and you also need scrub, knife scrub. This is when you are done sharpening your knife, you need something to like shine it up so that it will look shining, and it will remove every particle at the mouth of the knife, and it will make it very, very super sharp, right? So skiving is not difficult, skiving is not hard. All you need is a very sharp knife. Whatever design you choose, it's fine. Whatever tool you choose, it's very fine. And you also need a means to sharpen your knife, but in this case you will not need to sharpen your knife. You will only need to replace the blade. Of course, you know, razor comes really, really sharp, right? So that's about skiving. If you have any difficulty skiving, or you need to get any of these tools, you can simply reach out and we'll help you out. But it might be frustrating to start skiving. It might be really difficult, but with practice and practice and practice, you will get it and you will enjoy your work, right? So thank you very much, and we'll see you later in some other episode. So bye.